around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised.
Billions of people just living out their lives, oblivious. Choice is an illusion created between those with power and those without.
I drink your milkshake. I drink it up.
Thank you, John Larson. I receive your kind words on behalf of all of our courageous members of the House of Representatives who want the best for the American people. And what we can do that is best for them in the next 24 hours is to pass affordable, accessible health care for all Americans. The best for all Americans is to have 32 million more people to have health insurance in our country. The best for...
Piece of stinking filth.
Shh, you're sitting in shop. This is AJ of the InfoWars. Listen to the Shaliak. This is Alex Jones of InfoWars. Listen to Shaliak on the Cold Reality News and Report.
This is the coolest thing I have ever seen.
Well, hello there.
All right, welcome to Cold Reality Radio on the UCY.TV Broadcasting Network. It is Father's Day, Sunday, June 19th, 10:02 a.m. on the East Coast of America. And my guest and co-host today, Clint Richardson. We're going to be talking about the release of his work, his endeavor. I guess you could say it is his life's work. The release of Strawman, the real story of your artificial person. It is available right now at strawmanstory.info. And just to, preface this, Clint is putting, it's in electronic form, but then it's also, he's looking to put it into book form, a physical book that you can read. And already we have donations of roughly about $800. So over there at strawmanstory.info, if you want to support Clint and his incredible research and his incredible work, please do so over there at strawmanstory.info. Okay, Clint, we have you.
Greetings.
Good morning, sir. Very, very excited for you, as I wrote in Skype a couple days ago, as I'm sure you are. Clint wrote, "It is with great relief, happiness, and nervous anticipation that I have finally finished with the first barrage of editing for the new work, its final title. And David Dees is going to design the cover of the book."
Yeah, I'm excited about that. He's I always loved his work. So I just, it's just a matter of contacting these people and saying, "Hey, can you do this?"
Right. I mean, it's just everywhere. David Dees' work. David Icke speaks about it. He may even have done some work for David Icke. So how you feeling today? I know that I heard you on RBN the other night, and you were very excited and very passionate about your work, as we often hear you, as you often are about your work, and it's very exciting to for this to your creation, and what's on your mind?
I compared it to. Are my levels okay? I had to mess with my little board here.
No, you're fine. I mean, what I did was I scaled down. I actually purchased this Harman Kardon earbuds with a microphone. So how do I sound? I'm not using my regular board today.
Sounds really good for that, actually.
Yeah, I picked up two of them.
That's a great brand, actually.
Yes. So
no, it feels I compared it to like when you let your child go out into the world for the first time, like sending your kid off to school or sending him out to to move out or something. It's just it's a feeling like anytime you put a final, that this is the end product on something, you're especially something that's 760 pages like that. You're always going to be nervous about it because I know people are going to find mistakes, and I know they're going to use those mistakes in one of two ways: either to help other people by allowing me to correct them, or they're going to say, "Well, I'm not going to read this. You made a mistake." And a lot of people, unfortunately, are like that, not able to see the trees through the forest through the couple corroded trees,
Right.
So. And that's a little nerve wracking. I mean, I did a lot of corrections. I couldn't believe how many mistakes I had made that I had to fix like 40 of them, which fortunately it's kind of easy. But I had some good people. One guy, I couldn't believe it, man. Jeff up in Idaho, he read this thing 3 times. Mm-hmm. He went through it 3 times for me. And each time he had a new set of corrections. So that's the nerve-wracking part is not only that, but also looking forward to the comments and the critiques, especially. I hope that people's critiques, will be positive, even in their, when they're pointing out mistakes or whatever. But, you can only hope for that kind of thing. And then I expect a full troll blossom to bloom. Mm-hmm. So it's just a strange feeling to let it go, I guess, is the point.
Absolutely. I've done some creative things in my life. I've never really written anything. A couple times I've thrown a few things together, but I can't even imagine, putting together the information that you've researched and become so adapted to, and you're so understanding of it that you put it down on paper, you put it down on the computer, and you're going to make mistakes because the passion that you're feeling as you're writing. That's where the writing and the power of it happens, and you're going to every now and then you're gonna slip up a little bit and something's okay. But here's the thing: prior to the printing of the book, the physical book, you're gonna find more and then kind of correct that, obviously, before the print goes, before it gets into physical form.
I wrote a blog post about releasing the book, and someone sent me 5 corrections on my blog post. So
gotcha.
It's so hard to not make those stupid mistakes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, as much as can possibly be corrected will be corrected. Nothing in it's going to change, so don't let that stop anybody from downloading it. And again, it's free. It's always going to be free. It's never going to be. No one ever has to give me anything for it. That's been a promise of mine since I started doing this because, let's face it, man. Most people who listen to who actually are interested in learning what's really going on are disenfranchised already or about to be, or realize that this thing is coming to a very, very strange event or change that's going to happen here in the entire structure of the system, going cashless, that sort of thing. People are aware of it. Doesn't mean they're necessarily going to do anything about it until the point that it happens. But I realized after doing this, I kind of realized that the theme of this is not so much how to it's not some piece of paper. You know, there's a lot of gurus out there, the people who want to sell you their paperwork and sell you their methods and say, you know, that's not what I'm doing. I'm not. There is no method. There is no paperwork. This boils down to, and I know people don't like to hear this, and I'm sorry, but it's you know, after I got 4,000 pages in this research document, all the documents, you know, with this book, and that's, you know, that's you come to the conclusion after a while that there is no escaping this thing through paperwork or through any means. It's a battle of the mind, and that's all it is. It is a battle of the mind. You know, you always go back. It's so easy to go back to the Matrix as your sort of example to show a personification of what I'm talking about, an anthropomorphization of what I'm trying to say. You start to realize that every word, and I mean every single word that we use, has a dualistic meaning. And you realize that the words that they have patented, copyrighted, and hold as property. And that's the most important part, is that you got to understand that while you're acting in the person or status of government, you are required to not only know the law, but know the words that make up the law. Now, there is no rule or law that says you have to know the words or know the law, only that you understand, which means to stand under their authority. Mm-hmm. So they don't care if you know the words or not. They really don't. That's not a requirement. There's a maxim of law that says exactly that. It says to know the law and to be under the law are the same thing. You don't have to know it. You just have to agree to be under it. And how you agree is by participating in all these benefits and insurances and all these different things that go with the name, the number, the marks, the signs, the signature. All of that stuff is your confirmation. The last quote that I put in this book is perhaps the one that people should be really paying attention to. It's on the last page, almost the last page, and it's from the City of Dallas versus Mitchell, 245 SW 944. So it's a court case, in other words. And it says simply this: the rights of the individuals, referring to the individuals of the court case, which would be an individual as a natural person, you or me, acting in person. The rights of the individuals are restricted only to the extent that they have been voluntarily surrendered by the citizenship to agencies of government. Right? Now that says it all. Voluntarily surrendered by the citizenship, the vessel, to the agencies of government. That is where your rights disappear. See, we've all been trained to worship and love the fact that the Declaration of Independence goes into God-given rights and all the natural rights and all those things. And what I discovered is that the only people that are actually enjoying those rights, and it's not you and me, the people that are enjoying those uninhibited, unalienable, I give a shit how that is said, so get off my back. The only people that are enjoying those unalienable, God-given natural rights are those who reserve them. Right? Those are the private people of the states, right? And the Constitution protects those people in a negative way. In other words, it says government can't interfere on those negative rights. In the public sphere, in the sphere we're in, you notice that the only thing we ever get is called positive law. When you look up a U.S. code, you're going to see public or positive law, right? We're not under a private or negative law. We're under a positively declared law. And the difference between those two things is everything, because First of all, you have to voluntarily surrender all rights to become a citizen and then get a new set of corporate rights. And second of all, the duty changes. Your duty becomes a contractual obligation, whereas in the natural private realm, everything is a duty. It is your duty to not, as they say, do harm, to not trespass, to not do any of these things that would otherwise be against the positive law. As soon as you start trampling on people's rights in the natural realm or the natural law realm, then suddenly you're actually breaking the true law, the highest law, the moral, spiritual law, whatever you want to call it. That is the trick, you see, and in the greatest problem that we have is that we're never in a position in government, in citizenship, to actually make a choice. All our choices have been made for us. They've been positively established that we shall follow this commercial course and no other. It's been positively established that we're under a strict law where there is no choice. There is either what is legal or what is not legal, right? You don't have to make a choice, and therefore, again, as the maxims and very many quotes will tell you, even the Bible will tell you, that if you're not in a position to make a choice, whether it's a moral choice or a legal choice, if you don't have the option, if you don't have that ability to make a choice, then you cannot have morals. You cannot have a higher law. You cannot have a scriptural or any other form of law, because you're under a strict or positive law that is enforced with sanctions. And there's no sanctuary from the sanctions or punishments of law. You can't get away from it. That's the problem. And so we're stuck in a position, kind of like the opening of your show says, is that choice is an illusion when you're in a citizenship of the government, because you voluntarily surrendered your rights through the citizenship to the agencies of government, just as the court informs you. This is very important because we're at a point where we don't make a choice. You know, when these biometric identification apparatuses and marks and all the signs and everything that and you know, whether you like it or not, is right in the Bible. When all this stuff, and it is happening right now, when all this stuff comes around, you are not going to be in a position to make a choice whether you receive those marks, those identification marks, or not. All right? You don't have a choice. You take it, or you whatever the sanction is on the law that you do take it, you're going to be punished. Whether that means going to jail or being rounded up or whatever. You're not going to have a choice because you're this is the trick. You're in a personhood, you're in a person, a vessel, a citizenship of the United States. It's not you that has to take the mark, it's the person. The problem is the puppet can't go anywhere without the man. The man is the surety, ensures the puppet, therefore the man has to take the mark. See, they can't make you take a mark if you have your unalienable rights, but you're voluntarily giving up those rights. You don't have a choice. You see, the choice isn't, as you say, an illusion. And this is so important to know, that everything that happens to us in this system of law is because of our attachment, our figurative chains of surety that bind us to this artificial, fictional, straw man thing. That's the most important aspect of this. And until we voluntarily surrender that and say, I'm not going to believe it anymore. It's not just a matter of filing some paperwork or filing some, you got to stop believing it. And there again, every word has a dualistic meaning. The real meaning of the word believe, as we've talked about before, is love. Believe and love. Belief and love are the same word. The belief comes from the word love. You have to understand that when you believe in something, you love that thing. You believe in money. How many of us love money? Why? Because you believe it exists and has value. That's love. That's the basic animal love of something. And it's very difficult to find, I think, that higher sense of love. We think love is finding a woman and getting married and having that's not love. That's not the kind of love that that we need to start having. We need to start having the kind of love that is a love for everything in life, even the worst, mosquitoes and spiders. We have to having a love for everything, even that we fear, as long as it's natural, as long as it's real. And we have to have our fear has to be of the artifice of everything that's artificial. Right now, we fear real things. We fear not obeying the law of man instead of not obeying the law of God. Law of God is simple, man. Obey the laws of nature. Respect them and protect them, because you're only protecting yourself because you are a part of nature. The laws of man say do everything against nature, design everything against it, do everything you possibly can to thwart the laws of nature. All right?
Right.
So we find that we have two sets of law and they're diametrically opposed to each other. And that's why to access them, we have to do so in this fictional realm or matrix, legal matrix, I call it.
Right.
So, yeah, it's dude, on the show I filled in for John the other day, and I came to a realization during the show, and it was kind of hard to keep my cool, I guess, because I realized that we're always talking about America, right? America, the land of the free, and you start to think about all the things we say about America, not the United States, but America. What do we say about America? He said the land of the free, and all these different things. And I realized as I was on air, I realized that the United States, Washington D.C., is not America.
No,
and that tripped me the heck out, because I realized the land is America, the state is actually America. And I realized something else, man, because words, they sort of have, like I said, they have this dualistic meaning, but there's also sort of a third aspect to words. And it's when you start loving the real thing higher than the word itself, when the law is all based on words, on fictions, and the fiction is attached to the real thing, and we love the word higher than the real thing. And there's a point where that changes. There's a point where you become spiritually aware, and you question every word that comes your way. Mm-hmm. And you realize most people, when they're not talking with respect to the thing that they're naming. They're not talking with respect or love to the reality or to the nature of anything. They're talking in a very artificial way. And again, going back to the Matrix, most people don't even know they're doing it. You're living in a fictional realm, and you're getting licensed to do horrible things, commit horrible crimes against other people and nature. And you realize that, you see that it's all because of the words. Well, I figured out that what America actually is, the term America, is two things. It's the states, as in the territory, which territory comes from terra or earth. All right, so a territory becomes a state when the people of the state create a constitution, and then the constitution creates a legal state, a government, right? But it's still a territory. It's still the terra, or it's the earth, the land that we say, land of the free. And then there's everything else. So we have this strange thing called Congress. And you realize that every word underneath the official capacity or the name of Congress is another word that is the same word. It's Congress. Well, Congress is you could say it's an adjective, or you can say it's a verb. We get together in Congress. We have Congress when we get together and we interact or assemble.
Congregate?
Yeah, exactly. So it's not the title of a thing. They call it, actually, when we're talking about the legitimate quote unquote, the legitimate government. We're talking about the United States of America in Congress assembled. So the United States of America doesn't ever happen until Congress gets together and assembles. That's every state or all the representatives of the people of the land of the free, right? They get together. That's when America actually, you see it as a body politic. That's the only time you really see it. The rest of the time, America is each individual state all in union. And then you have this thing called the United States, and you have another Congress. Only this time the Congress is a noun. It's called Congress. It's in Title II, I think, of the U.S. Code, but it's not the same Congress. It's a corporate, a commercial entity that runs this municipal corporation, the seat of government that is in Washington, D.C. It's not the same Congress. It is not Congress assembled. It's a corporation called Congress. So again, the concept of getting together in Congress becomes a corporation called Congress, and these guys wear two hats. Mm-hmm. See, so you start to realize every word comes from a real action or a real natural thing, and then you have its corporate version. And every word we use in the legal language, even our own names, if I say, well, if I say Shali, if I say your Christian name, I'm actually your first name. I'm actually referring to you as a being, as an entity. But if I'm talking to you as Clint Richardson or some other, full name, which is a corporate name, I'm now referring to you as something artificial. I'm now talking about you like an estate or a corporate structure that has all of your holdings and everything else. And the only reason I would do that is because I'm interested in insuring, contracting,
right,
or suing your estate. That really is the only reason I would call you in that name. But we've been trained to use that all the time. We've been trained to only acknowledge the corporate aspect, the artificial aspect of everything. So anyway, that's my rant for today.
Well, it's it makes sense that they would take Congress and it would have one meaning, and then of course it would have its fictional apparatus that would attach to the legal, the legal fiction and all the other things that that kind of the amalgamation of this deception. But and I guess I'm gonna go at it from a person of ignorance that just doesn't even know. And I get this all the time. So to me, what makes this whole thing just illegitimate is the fact that they're extracting from us, they've lied to us, they're living parasitically off of us. Now, if they weren't doing some of these things, it would be more tolerable. It wouldn't be perfect, but it would be more tolerable to me if I wasn't getting taxed and, we were told that this is the land of the free, when obviously it's only an illusion, the illusion of freedom. But you get these young people today, and of course these are like 9/11 children, and I run across a number of them, one or two in particular. But they're wrapped into this whole thing. If it's not sports, it's all the different bread and circus, money, travel, things that even if we were not manipulated in the horrific way that we are, would still kind of take place. Do you think that's pretty accurate? Like we would still, like if we were able to create a system of our own that wasn't that wasn't created to enslave. It was a system, and I'm sure that there would be challenges, but wouldn't something like this, like, erase everything, erase the legalese, erase the birth certificate, erase all of these other things that make us, fictions? And what do you think, without this manipulation, what do you think would this world, your life, what do you think that your life, and will you use your life as an example?
You gotta understand one very important thing. Consider it this way, man. These things are never going to go away. Mm-hmm. So I say, no matter what paperwork you file, and no matter which judge you get in front of on your knees and pray to or plead, that birth certificate ain't going nowhere. It still exists. When you get a divorce, you're still married. People don't know this. This is why the court has so much power over your child. That contract still exists. It's just in a divorced state. Doesn't mean anything. Mm-hmm. Right? It just means that you are lawfully, I should say legally, able to go and start doing something else really stupid, right? You're still married, people, when you're divorced. You haven't annulled the contract. So it's very important to know that you're never gonna truly erase your existence in the fiction, because you've already confirmed it. You've already turned what is avoidable into something unavoidable by your actions, by your voluntary actions. That doesn't mean you can't quit acting the part. Just like when you're married, you quit acting the part, right? Of husband or wife. This is not a game that's going to be solved by paperwork. And trust me, I looked and looked. There's all kinds of things you can do. You can get rid of your Social Security card. You can do this. You can do this. Does that mean that the Social Security administration isn't still waiting for you to slip up and come right back in? No. Mm-hmm. The evil is always. I think the main message of the Bible is that this is an individual journey. You don't get rid of the system. You don't get rid of the evil. You don't get rid of attorneys. You don't get rid of. Stop trying to change a system that isn't yours. Stop trying to sink the pirate ship or the pirate cove. Just take yourself out of it. Doesn't mean you even have to go anywhere. It just means you have to take it out of your mind that matrix controls you, and that's very hard. I know. The point is, though, this is an individual journey. There is no getting rid of the system or changing the system. The system it works like a charm. It's not broken. There is no problems. It's doing exactly what it. Even though all you ever hear is how many problems, how much debt, how much this, how much. That's all purposeful. That's the very design of it. These things to the devil are a good thing. And when I say devil, I mean the attorneys who run government. Okay? To the devil, that kind of stuff is good. Debt is great, wonderful. They invest in debt. They love debt. We talked about that, right? Mm-hmm. And they convince you to, well, it's horrible to be in debt. You should pay your debt. Pay it every month for the rest of your life, right? Meanwhile, they're investing in the debt, making all kinds of money from the debt, trading the debt or the value of the debt, even though they don't actually have the money. They're trading the value of the debt. Just like they trade gold certificates that represent gold but aren't actually gold. Meanwhile, the gold's sitting there and the certificates are being traded. And they can be traded for any amount. It's all fiction. It doesn't mean anything. It's the belief in it that causes it to affect us. And I'm sorry, that is the ultimate truth. That is the very foundation of this whole thing, is our belief, as in love of fiction, especially the love of money. And if you haven't noticed, man, you want to tell me which law isn't about money?
Oh yeah, I mean that was one of the things that stood out when I first started listening to you. Was every crime is financial. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I had to think about it, but and how it applies to to everything else, and then it made sense. I didn't know like all the details of it, but it did make sense that every crime is financial. Yeah, because they make money off of you. They make just so many different things.
Your birth certificate is a financial instrument. It creates a commercial entity. What's a commercial entity but something that uses the property of another, the money of another? Everything's money. Everything's based around mammon. And mammon, why is mammon so bad? Why is the love of money what is talked about in the Bible? Money's not evil. The love of money is evil. And that's talking about the fact that I can look at, let's go back to the slavery days, the fact that I can look at a man who's slightly different color than me, or a lot different, or the same, depending on where you're from. Oh, you're from Ireland. Well, I'm an Englishman, and therefore I'm going to indenture you and put a value on you and pay you a certain amount of money because I love the money. Right? That is mammon. Mammon is the valuation that we put on everything. It's not the money itself. The money is only a representation of our own greed and of our own love of artificial things. It's called sin, right? Everything artificial is a sin if you get down to the nitty-gritty of what those words mean. Don't take these words as the church teaches you. Take them for what they really mean. It is a sin to put a valuation in money upon a man, or for that matter, anything in nature. And if you think about that, it'll make sense. It might take a while. It may take you a little time. But the problem is you value that thing now, not according to its life, not according to the quote-unquote its creator and its design and its purpose in nature. You only value it as a commodity that can be gobbled up and all of nature's laws destroyed or ignored. That's mammon. There's a lot of maxims of law that are very important, of course, and they say the same thing. They say that a man, in the true meaning of the word, should never have a valuation put upon him. Man can never be valued. Well, person is. It's a valuation. It's a commercial vessel that you participate in. It has a certain labor potential and human capital potential. And they do actuarials and all these different formattings and figure out what you're going to earn, how much you're going to be taxed or extorted from. So let's talk about that, because, I mean, it's very important to understand. And I always refer to, I don't know why, I don't know when it's going to kick into people, but refer people to Title 42, Section 1981, where it says that it is your right to be exacted. It's your right to be put in pain, punished, exacted, extorted. These are your rights. You see, these are not natural rights. You gave those up. It's your natural right not to be extorted from. That's your unalienable right, but you gave that up. They call it inalienable, which means you can sell that right and accept different rights. And now you're in a position where you're a person of the United States, and therefore you have the rights given to you by U.S. Code. In this case, the Statement of Equal Rights says that all men, or all persons, shall share in the right to be extorted, exacted, taken, put in prison, all those things. Taxed, feed, all of those things are your rights. You see, rights aren't a good thing, it turns out, unless you're talking about something that comes from you and you alone. The second you get rights from someone else, you're screwed. Those aren't rights anymore. Those are contractual obligations. So it is your, I'll say, requirement that you be exacted. Now, you look up the word exaction and you find extortion. It's just a different form of extortion because it is officially defined as what a police officer does. It is the taking of something that is not your due. I take something that you don't owe me, right? That's what a police officer does. He says, oh, you were speeding, or any one of 100 1,000 different crimes that they can imagine. Here's a contract that says you must pay $300 for quote unquote speeding. And because you believe that you were speeding, and because you believe in money, and because you believe that you're a fiction, and because you believe in the police officer's authority, because you love all of these things, you will actually be extorted from, and quite legally. Quite legally.
So I guess my question is, and again, I disagree with the absolute domination that they have over us.
But they don't. They don't have absolute domination over. They have no domination over us.
Well, it's their system. It's their system, right?
They have domination over their property. What is their property? The person, the citizenship of the United States is their property.
They created you so they control you.
They control us because we love being their frickin' slave, their citizen. It's not a good thing to be in citizenship, all right? You got to get that through.
I agree at this point.
They have total and absolute domination. It's called domicile over the person. They have nothing over any man until that man agrees to be and act in the person of another or of them. You got to understand that. Stop blaming them and blame yourself, because
it is an entrapment. It is an entrapment, is it not?
No, it's voluntary.
I mean, how does and I understand this, so I'm not arguing with you. I'm just from the standpoint of someone who that doesn't understand the deception. Someone
I'm going to answer your question right now, because this is one of my biggest pet peeves is the so-called anarchy people out there, Mark Stevens and the Anarchast, the guy, that multi-millionaire who does an anarchy show, who obviously, couldn't have made his millions without being a person, without being allowed to have a license to do a corporation and all that, right? All these people who say I'm an anarchist. Again, that's like saying it's a title. It doesn't mean anything. You're not acting the part. Just like a Christian isn't acting the part, isn't following Christ. They're a title, a legal title called Christian means absolutely frickin' nothing. Call yourself an anarchist all you want. It means absolutely nothing, because what do? You get in your car with a license plate. You have a driver's license, social security number. You have a retirement, a nice little 401k. You're not an anarchist. Come on. You're not an anarchist. If you were, you'd be fighting against us. So here's the thing, man. And this is going to sound stupid. I heard a song the other day. It was, I always liked the song, but I never thought about what it was saying. What you're going to hear, the anarchists, the Satanists, basically favorite thing to say is service at the barrel of a gun. You ever heard that?
Yeah, I think I had it. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what song it is.
Service at the barrel of a gun. In other words, I'm being forced to participate in this system. I'm forced to have a driver's license, because if I don't, they're going to put a gun to my head. That's all I ever hear these guys say. They're going to I'm forced. I have to do it. No, it's voluntary. Everything is voluntary. You tell them that, they're like, no, I'm not responsible. I take no responsibility because there's a gun to my head. Everything is a gun. Everything they say ends with there's a gun to my head, therefore I have to do it. So I heard this song the other day, and I realized it's all a bunch of bullshit. This gun to my head, this fact that we're forced to do anything. We're not forced to do anything. Absolutely not. You know what that song was? Never Surrender. Frickin' 80s song. A song you listen to, you never give it a second thought.
Is that Triumph?
It says you have no one can take away your right to fight and to never surrender.
Yeah, that's Triumph.
No, it's
no.
I can't. The guy
no.
It's a good song,
I have it. It's up there now. It's processing.
Yeah, I can't remember his name, but Corey Hart, I think.
Right, exactly.
But I listened to it, and I'm like, holy crap, these guys are all full of shit. And that, it was that song that made me, just stupid things like that make me understand things, because I'm now listening and hearing and seeing everything for what it really is on a spiritual level like I've never felt before. And I realized, oh, these guys are so full of shit. Oh, there's a gun to my head. They're forcing me to do it. No one can take you away your right to fight and never surrender. We worship the founding fathers, we worship the military, we worship all these people who die in service to their country, a country that then enslaves all of us. Well, wait a minute. Why are we worshiping the fact that these people died for no freaking reason in some war or some declared emergency or some occupation illegally of some other country? Why are we worshiping them and not saying, well, wait a minute, why am I submitting to all this horrible, horrible, horrible stuff that's happening to us? Why are we submitting to that while we're worshiping someone who would die to protect the so-called freedom that we all supposedly worship? Doesn't make sense. We're in a contradiction. We're in a continuously
contradiction,
enforced contradiction, and it makes no sense. And the truth of the matter is that no one can ever take away your right to fight and to never surrender. And that means dying for what you believe in. None of this, they have gun to my head if I don't agree. But I'm still an anarchist. I'm still an anarchist, damn it.
It's the brain parasite.
But they have a gun to my head.
It's the brain parasite, man. It's got to be.
It's just brilliant marketing. It really is.
I mean, it's brainwashing and marketing over time, and people are afraid to step. I mean, I do it on a daily basis. I say things that are unpopular at least once a day, and I will get and as I said to you, I think that people kind of like me by now. I mean, I do a pretty good job. I'm reliable, mostly because if it's maybe just survival. I don't know, but I say things that are unpopular, and I said something like this on Friday. I said, you really can't expect that this world's going to go on like it has forever, do you? What the heck?
Yeah.
I said, you really can't expect that things are going to go on at this level forever, do you? And it was like, and we were in the middle of a conversation, and we were kind of eating. We ordered from the same place, so we're kind of sitting in our partitions in our little work prisons, and that just kind of, I said, wow. I said silence. Wow, because it's very. I mean, you realizing what your journey, the path that you've taken. Not many people have broken out of that. Out of that Alex Jones. You've gone the distance. You've got your work out now. We just can't expect that people are going to. Hopefully, things are going to change. Hopefully, things are going to open up, and it's going to be like an awareness that people are just like, oh, I can't believe I never saw that before. But it's just it's tough. It's tough being, especially someone with your intelligence level, man. It makes complete and total sense to you, and it makes sense to me. I'm just trying to figure out a way to counteract the brainwashing and do it in the right way, because that's what people are going to say. Well, what do we have without this? If I don't do this, then I'm not going to have that. I'm not.
This is the whole structure, my friend, is set up to make you avoid consciously your intentions. It's all about intent. Every word and every action and everything we do has an intention. And the question becomes, when you do all these things, when you are out there amongst all these people and all these things, what is your intention? Now, if you're in a person of the United States, a citizenship, your intention is being written for you. It's the written law. Your intention is only to be human capital for a corporate structure, pay it taxes and fees, and be exacted from, extorted. Right? That is your function. That's your intention.
Sure.
Whether you know that that's your intention or not, again, the maximum of law says to know the law and to be under the law are the same things. As soon as you sign up for all these benefits, all these inducements to contract, your intention is written for you. You see, this is the hard part, man. It is everything you do, every second of the day, you must be conscious. Everything out there, from television to even to radio, is designed to make you unconscious, to make you not function properly. The stoplights, the ATMs, the money, everything is to make you unconscious of your own intentions or the consequences of your actions. Well, I have a license to do something really horrible like kill as a police officer, and therefore I'm not going to be conscious of my actions, nor am I going to be responsible for my actions. Right? So everything you do has to be one, you treat everyone else as you would be treated. Obviously, it's the highest law, and two, everything I do has the intention is to support nature. What is nature? God. What is God? Everything you see that is self-evident, everything that's living, everything that is existing at this moment. Right? Some of the greatest wisdoms, some of the greatest parables in the Bible are ones that you would never consider in this system, because the intention of this system is to lose that natural law intent. What should our intent be? Should it be to gather as much wealth for each one of ourselves as possible, while others are starving, while others have no homes, while others are in need? Or should our goal at all times be, if you will, a more aristocratic one, which is to say, I will have nothing if someone else is in need, to always support the wealth of others and never ourselves.
Support nature. So to support nature, not to toxify, not to steal sand. Not to steal sand, and we'll get into that because that was very powerful. Yeah. Not to steal sand, destroy beaches, beautiful beaches, to build. I had no idea. Like when Greg said, oil is in everything. Well, it turns out that sand is like a family member to oil, in that in maybe in different applications. But it yet is another example of how they are destroying nature. They are destroying our home, and then blaming it on people for driving large automobiles.
Yeah, it's amazing. And we said, see, that's the thing, while that's, we're the ones. So the thing that struck me, and this is a documentary film that I posted on my blog one entry ago, and it's called Sand Wars. Yeah, the thing that amazed me about it is that it was the Maldives, where islands are just complete islands are just disappearing into the ocean because they're dredging the sand a little bit offshore from the island, and then the island has no support, so the sand of the island starts slipping into the ocean. All of a sudden, you have no island anymore because they were dredging sand, supposedly, not trying to affect the island, but they know it's going to happen. So you got these people who live on the island going out and collecting the sand. It reminds me of someone an African native or something that would go out and kill an elephant for its tusk and nothing else, not the meat, nothing, just the tusk, because the tusk is so valuable. You kill the entire life form or the species itself just for the tusk, right? Because it's worth money.
And there is a market for that. There is a market for that as well, and they are doing that all over the place. Mainly, I think maybe in South America, Africa as well.
Oh, it's horrible. It's what people will pay money for is just ridiculous. But see, those people who will pay money for such horrible things would never go do it themselves. And this is classic, you know. In all of history, you always find that it's the poorest of the poor that are convinced to go out and do the most horrific things to benefit those who have money that can pay them so that they can eat.
Mm-hmm.
Horrible. That is not conducive to the laws of nature. It is not conducive to life. It is not conducive to charity or anything else. It's horrible. So you got these islanders who live on the very island that they're destroying by dredging or collecting the sand, causing the island to then, you know, devolve into the ocean. And then they have to move to the fortified city that has a wall around it, and they become, you know, pretty much slaves to this corporate municipal structure instead of living like, you know, they have for thousands of years on this island. To me, that's amazing. That is amazing that we could be made to defeat ourselves like that. And that's, I think, the perfect example of why legalism it's not, you know, legalism is nothing until the man decides he's going to participate in it. And once he does, then all of a sudden he's abandoned the laws of nature and he's accepted the laws of I mean, you can only say Satan, which just means adversarialness. You know, it's a religious concept, a spiritual concept. You embrace that which is adversarial to nature or good or life itself. Right. You don't have to get all weird and Catholic or whatever on it. You just have to acknowledge it for what it is.
Right. So I mean, you get all these people that get involved in the the movement of the sand from one location. You know, stealing from one location, bringing it to places like Singapore, which has been built up. And I've heard that any number of times from economists about Singapore. You got Dubai, where they one of the fascinating things, but at the same time just totally demonic, is that they're stealing it and then they're building islands.
Yeah.
And you know, and then one thing that I did not know was you got your regular sand, like from, you know, the Sahara Desert or something. That sand can't even be used because it doesn't, you know, it just doesn't like pack. It's like bad packing snow if you're gonna, you know, have a snowball fight. You know, it's just too dry. It
has to be jagged. Right. The ocean, you know, it tumbles around, but in the desert, it's always constantly being wind blown, and it turns into glass, and it's real smooth, so it can't be used as reinforced concrete. You know, you got 3,000 or 30,000 pounds of reinforced concrete in every home. And you think about how much sand that actually equates to every home in America, right? It's amazing, amazing, amazing how much sand is used on a daily basis. And they have literally used up all available sort of free sand. And now they're going to start relying on governments to open up protected places to haul sand. And the worst part for me, my friend, was this notion that you listen to these guys and they're like, holy shit, they're dredging the bottoms of the oceans, and they're taking all the coral because you can't see, you know, you're just putting this big freaking vacuum cleaner and destroyer down there, hauling all the sand off the bottom of the ocean, and if there's coral or life of any sort, it gets sucked up.
Yep.
Bones are crushed up, and you're basically making sand out of all the life on the bottom of the ocean floor. What is it? It's calcium. It's you know, coral. You find out that a lot of sand comes from coral anyway. So there, you know, you see all these people, you know, saying that the oceans are dying. Well, it turns out we're sucking all the life out of the ocean, bottom of the ocean floor, which sustains all the rest of the life in the ocean, so that we can have sand to build these big fucking ghost cities in places like China where no one's living in them, 90% unoccupancy rates. And they're holding those buildings hedging against the fact that they know that the price of sand is going to go up because they've used it all. And the only way to get sand now, the kind of sand they need to use, is to dredge it from the bottom of the ocean. And the only people that can do that are these big government operations that have these big, massive ships that no one else can afford. Yeah, and it's becoming a mafia, a monopoly on
sand
building.
mafia.
And that's what they're calling it. No, who would have thought, right? Who would have thought this is how it's happening, that they're turning that they're sucking up all the life on the ocean. And then there's, the worst part for me was realizing as I was watching that this is the global warming hoax. This is the real hoax, because what they're telling us is that the oceans are rising. Oh, oceans are rising. Oceans are rising. No, you've dredged all the sand and there's nothing to support the beaches, and therefore the oceans are the same, but the water level appears to be rising while the sand falls into the ocean.
I was just thinking, like, and I saw most of it, and then I was just maybe kind of so traumatized and tired that I might have like fallen asleep in the last 15 minutes. And then I'm thinking, like, how does the climate change? I'm thinking, I'm going to ask Clint, how does the whole climate change? And then with just right after I thought that, you're like, it looks like the beaches are being the water's rising when it's actually the bottom of the ocean that's being pulled. So,
and so the sand on the beach, because it has it doesn't have the support system that literally is its design.
Yeah,
right? It's thousands of years of nature it took to build all these beaches and stuff, all this coral and everything else. It's just being instantly just raped.
Yeah,
raped is a term that actually is a legal term for destroying or taking land. Yeah. It's just being raped. It's literally being taken, and therefore there's now all of a sudden nature has changed. Mm-hmm. The maps are changing because the sand of our beaches is literally being dragged into the sea. The oceans are changing. The ocean tide levels are changing, and they're saying again, well, that's man-made global warming. That's what's causing it. You guys should be ashamed of yourself. Meanwhile, they're killing everything in the ocean by dredging it.
Yeah, and then the beach that was in place falls in. The sand moves in to fill the hole from where they just pulled a ton or two or three of sand out, and then the beach disappears. I mean, this
is to me the epitome of legalism versus the natural law. If the natural law were being followed, if the laws of nature, there's two different forms here. All right, there's two different concepts. There's the law of nature and the laws of nature. The laws of nature are the very essence of life, right? It's the design of life, if you will, all the qualities of life. The law of nature is the spiritual law that protects that life. These are two different sets of law. So, in other words, the Bible would be the natural law, or where it comes from. It's so funny because everybody quotes from the Bible; they have no idea they're quoting from it. Even the trivium people, they're worshiping the trivium when the trivium comes right from the Bible. They're worshiping sacred geometry. When it comes technically, I won't say it comes from the Bible, but it warns against worshiping numbers over the real thing they represent. Mm-hmm. It's just it's amazing that we're all quoting the Bible, but we've all been turned away from it. Almost every little group that forms out there, whatever you're worshiping comes right from the Bible. It's amazing. And the Bible, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying the Bible is the source or the origin of that type of knowledge. I'm only saying that it's a compendium of knowledge, right? That knowledge had to exist before the Bible was written, obviously. So it's a copy of a copy of a copy. Don't get me wrong. That's not an excuse not to ignore to ignore the Bible. It's the wisdom of the ages. Oh, but it's a plagiarization of this, or it's a copy of that. So what? Mm-hmm. What's your point? Everything you do is a copy of something else. What's your point? Stop using excuses. Stop allowing these people to screw you over by drawing you away from the very source of knowledge and law. They have to do that in order to get to control you. I can't tell you how many quotes I found from very prominent people that say the same thing. Bible-reading people cannot be enslaved. Education is useless without the Bible. That's Noah Webster, man. All these people, they know what they're talking about. Their very existence as private individuals depended on that knowledge. So
yeah, I just saw your message there. You're about need just a break there. So if you got something that you need to do, I'll just hold the ship until.
Cool, I'll be back.
All right, no worries. Okay, so we're talking with Clint Richardson today. His book, his PDF endeavor, his life's work is over there at strawmanstory.info, strawmanstory.info. And, we're just kind of talking about the, what has been done to us, how we, this is their system. They created their system. Now, I would say, that we've been, entrapped. How does a child know what they're getting into? They're only as aware and effective as the parents. But then again, the woman delivering the child is abandonment of that child to the state. So it's been very, very systematically and maliciously constructed. And so this is not our system. And the only way that we can get out of the system is to denounce the United States citizenship, 14th Amendment, voluntary servitude, like Payday says. There's so many of his lyrics. Slavery has been abolished. I don't know if you heard the news, but the 14th Amendment's voluntary servitude. That's anyway. Missiles with relish. One of the. And I know Payday's got many, but that was really kind of truly my, attachment to his work, having, done a couple tracks, being on a couple of the tracks. And so if you get a chance, look that up, Missiles with Relish. Because there's a lot of really good information in there. So we've got the shooting this week, and that shooting is already highly, highly questionable. We got Clint back. What are your thoughts on the shooting down there in Orlando? Is it another deception?
I would refer people to a blog post that I wrote. Let's see if I can actually pull it up. We'll read some things and it'll all become clear.
Dan just posted an article. What causes beach erosion? Is beach erosion a natural cycle, or is it getting worse with rising sea levels?
Oh, no, not rising sea levels. No.
You'd think that we would build state-of-the-art desalination plants to save ourselves, but not going to happen, I don't think.
Yeah, it's so strange.
Yeah. I was in Aruba, and they had this state-of-the-art desalination plant there, so I drank some water down there, but I did wake up one night with kind of like, oh, what's going on inside my belly? That could have been from the steak from the La Petite Cafe, but which was delicious, by the way.
So I wrote a thing a while back, and I just like the movie, that movie. a movie like what we were just talking about, The Sand Wars, allows you to take all of your other knowledge and focus it and see that there's a big scam going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when the Boston bombing incident happened, you guys can look this up, and I highly recommend this one particular thing I wrote because it really explains the need for this. Okay, it's one thing to sit here and make YouTube videos and say it's false, look, it's fake, they're actors, da 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 da. But it's another thing to understand the purpose, right? Why? What? When someone asks, what's the point? Why is it that government, you conspiracy theorist, why would government do such a thing? And there's an answer to that. It's called, this blog is called Boston Bombing: The Importance of Public Executions in Peacetime. Right? To me, I think it was probably the favorite thing I've ever wrote, not because it was my information. This is actually information from what's called the report from Iron Mountain.
Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah.
So what's the purpose? Let me just read you some quotes, right? Page 39. The war system not only has been essential to the existence of nations as independent political entities, so they're praising war, but has been equally indispensable to their stable political structure. Without war, no government has ever been able to obtain acquiescence in its legitimacy or right to rule its society. So without constant barrage of war, what's the point of government, right? The possibility of war provides the sense of external necessity. Always has to be an enemy to protect you from. That's the danger of being secure. External necessity without which no government can long remain in power. How's a government going to stay in power in its tyranny unless there's something to fight? The historical record reveals one instance after another where the failure of a regime to maintain the credibility of a war threat led to its dissolution. In other words, well, we don't need you anymore, government. Everything's at peace. Everything would be at peace without government. So by the forces of private interest, we know what that means, or reactions to social injustice, or of other disintegrative elements, the organization of society for the possibility of war is its principal political stabilizer. What do we say? We say that the best economy we ever have is during and after a war, right? So it's a political stabilizer. It has enhanced societies to maintain necessary class distinctions, and it has ensured the subordination of the citizens to the state by virtue of the residual war powers inherent in the concept of nationhood. Now you can take that and you can think about that as a precursor to why we need public educations to be broadcast on television. Because again, what they figured out is that, well, we can have new wars. We can have wars on emergency. So we have the war on the flu. We have the war on Ebola. We have the war on terror. We have the war on drugs. We have the war on this, and we have the war on that. Now we have a war against school shootings. Right? Mm-hmm. These are all publicly declared emergencies, i.e. war, or the same thing as war, under executive orders. You have to understand that Congress and the courts have both agreed that the law of necessity applies, and the law of necessity knows no law. What is necessary is never bound by law. So when you give the president the power, and Congress did, to declare national emergency, the emergency is a war against the emergency, so a war against terror, right? So now we're saying, well, let's not go to war. Let's not spend all the money and do all these horrible things. We can do that as a private venture, right? We can destroy an entire infrastructure and then have Dick Cheney's company go rebuild it again. You have the United or the Red Cross, which, if you look at the board of directors, is a who's who in the construction industry and every other industry that it would take to rebuild a country. Oh, okay, great. So it's a bunch of CEOs that run the Red Cross. Oh, wonderful. Well, let's just hire them. They'll take care of it.
Not to mention just the symbolism of the Red Cross.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
It goes way back. It goes,
Yeah. Well, so now we have a system. We're entering into a time, as everybody knows, where all they have to do is wag the dog. Right? All they have to do is create a production of war, show it to people to keep them in a constant state of fear of that the boogeyman is going to get us, whether that boogeyman is a disease or a drug or a terrorist, right? Or a school shooter or a Boston bomber. What doesn't matter? A guy with a freaking bomb in his shoe. Why not? Let's make it more ridiculous as we go. So so you got to understand that the importance of these public executions, these public displays of blood, especially, are what it takes to legitimize the government. And I use the word legitimize very loosely, of course. In their eyes, the only way they can stay in power and have this massive military-industrial complex is to constantly put us into fear. I think we all understand that, right?
Right, governed by fear.
Well, let's see what it says here. In general, the war system provides the basic motivation for primary social organization. In doing so, it reflects on the societal level the incentives of individual human behavior. There again, that's your intent. What are the incentives of your behavior? What's the inducement to your contract? Love is defined as an inducement to contract. In other words, they use the fact that you're lusting after somebody to get you to get married so that your children are illegitimate. Because it's an illegitimate marriage between persons, not men, male and female. The most important of these for social purposes is the individual's psychological rationale for allegiance to a society and its values. Allegiance, which is nationality, requires a cause. A cause requires an enemy. This much is obvious. The critical point is that the enemy that defines the cause must seem genuinely formidable. Roughly speaking, the presumed power of the quote-unquote enemy, which again could be a drug or a fictional terrorist or whatever, sufficient to warrant an individual sense of allegiance to a society must be proportionate to the size and complexity of the society. Today, of course, that power must be one of unprecedented magnitude and frightfulness. Thus, you have quote-unquote events like 9/11. It follows from the patterns of human behavior that the credibility of a social enemy, quote-unquote, demands similarly a readiness of response in proportion to its menace. Therefore, they don't only show you the school shootings, they also show you the training drills, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're constantly being bombarded with preparation. Yeah. Preparation. Look, we're preparing. Prepare. You should prepare. You should have a bug out bag. Hey, buy our prepreparation. Go to Infowars.com and buy this.
Buy your life straw. And
yeah.
Well, I got to tell you, nothing puts more fear into me than Al Qaeda on those rusted monkey bars as they're training to destroy America.
I found out that if you're actually in Iraq,
right?
Guess what the word Al Qaeda actually means?
Is it the database?
Toilet.
Al Qaeda means toilet.
Mm-hmm.
Oh dear.
So I really doubt that they would use that as the terrorist name. Anyway,
right.
Let's see. In a broad context, social context, quote, an eye for an eye, unquote, still characterizes the only acceptable attitude towards a presumed threat of aggression. That's the Old Testament attitude, despite contrary religious and moral precepts governing personal conduct. So despite the New Testament, let's go with the Old, the remoteness of personal decision from social consequence in a modern society makes it easy for its members to maintain this attitude without being aware of it. Without being aware of it. They're talking to us. A recent example is the war in Vietnam. A less recent one was the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. In each case, the extent and gratuitousness of the slaughter were abstracted into political formulae by most Americans once the proposition that the victims were enemies was established. They're telling you right here they weren't our enemies. They couldn't even freaking reach America, right? They had no military, they had no army, they had no I shouldn't say army, they had no planes, they had nothing to retaliate against us. They were victims, and it's admitting they were victims. But as long as we think they're enemies, then the goal is political formula. The war system makes such an abstracted response possible in non-military contexts as well. It goes on. I mean, I could read this thing forever. In these societies, moving on, the blood sacrifice served the purpose of maintaining a vestigial earnest of the society's capability and willingness to make war, i.e. kill and be killed, in the event that some mystical, i.e. unforeseen circumstance were to give rise to the possibility. It says a symbolic reminder that war had once been the central organizing force of the society is necessary, and that this condition might reoccur. So what do you have? You have public executions, you have school shootings, you have all these things, terrorist attacks, right, to remind you of a state of society like World War II, where the whole nation was united in war and very proud of themselves, and still watches war movies and talks about it as if it was a good time in history, right? We won. Oh, what did we win exactly? We killed all the Germans. Oh, wait, most of the people in America are from Germany or are German, right? So, I mean, it's like, because German has a much deeper meaning. It says... it does not follow that a transition to total peace in modern societies would require the use of this model. Remember, in a peacetime, the only way to keep peace is the constant threat of war. That's their psychology. Even in the less barbaric guise. But the historical analogy serves as a reminder that a viable substitute for war as a social system cannot be a mere symbolic charade. In other words, they can't just, you can't just talk about it. You can't just have a medal. You have to have something that's constantly appearing to happen, i.e. school shootings, etc. It must invoke risk of real personal destruction on a scale consistent with the size and complexity of modern social systems. Credibility is the key. Whether the substitute is ritual in nature or functionally substantive, unless it provides a believable life and death threat, it will not serve the society, not serve the socially organizing function of war. The existence of an accepted external menace then is essential to social cohesiveness as well as the acceptance of political authority. Right? Now, this report is literally telling you that in order for our society to function in any way without devolving into total anarchy, and in order for the government to have authority to keep it that way, it must provide entertainment. It must show us at all times that we have a threat and that government is there to protect us. And that without government, we'd be screwed. Right? So what it turns out to be is that everything that happens is a terrorist act of the government, and the government comes in, makes a big media spectacle of its own actions, and then says, we're here to protect you from it. So again, it's one thing to say, hey, this is fake. Oh, look, I have proof. It's fake. Well, why is it fake? Why are they doing it? And I just read you the reason.
Yeah, makes sense. And I think it kind of covers a number of different aspects of what they're trying to do. It does that, and at the same time, they are, they're demonizing Muslims. And then there's radicals in in Catholicism. There's radicals within Judaism, and now, I mean, they've all but created the boogeyman. And then I'm watching a few things regarding Trump, trying to get some more information on him, his background. And then he'll sit there and he's talking to people. And I think this might have been the speech that he gave right before he announced his run for presidency. He said, our military over there, our leaders, they just left behind 2,000 of these armored vehicles. And I'm thinking, okay, well, what's next? Who are they leaving them for? You think it was just an accident that they just left them there? Or is ISIS using them now?
Yeah, well,
And
that's
I'm like,
similar. Isn't that similar to them pushing off the helicopters from the battleships, pretending that it was a sign of peace, but in reality it was the president at the time, that the one that killed Kennedy, or was because his wife owned all the stock in was it Colt or one of the weapons manufacturing companies, so they were destroying or abandoning all the equipment so that they'd have to rebuild it. And that's what our society is, man. It's literally we create as much waste as possible to keep the society going, because otherwise there's no money in it. If we built things like we used to, there'd be no money in it. Everybody would get their thing and it'd be done. The company would go out of business. Well, we can't have that, can we? We can't build good things anymore. Let me read you one other aspect of this, because it's funny that we transitioned into this because this also explains the Sand Wars. The development of a sophisticated form of slavery may be an absolute prerequisite for social control in a world at peace. As a practical matter, conversion of the code of military discipline to a euphemized form of enslavement would entail surprisingly little revision. The logical first step would be the adaptation of some form of universal military service. What are they talking about now, right? Just like Israel has a mandatory, kids have to go into the military. They're talking about doing that in America, and they're doing it in a way that actually causes us to go, yeah, these lazy kids that we've allowed to be created from our own actions. Oh, damn them. Put them in the military. We are so easily controlled. So we're literally enslaving.
They need direction. They need a path in life. They need to be kept busy.
Well, and here's where it gets really interesting, my friend, because what have our kids and probably you and me and my generation, what have we been doing with our lives? Well, we've been watching movies and playing video games, right? That's been our sort of hobbies, and very, very unsocial behavior, very, all those video games have a very important story to tell, and it's usually you're fighting some kind of threat, whether it's an alien or terrorists or whatever. So it's like a virtual reality, right? And it's prepping us to want to join the military, to become citizen soldiers, not militia that protects the private natural rights, but the national military that goes and beats the shit out of everybody. So let me read you this. When it comes to postulating a credible substitute for war capable of directing human behavior patterns in behalf of social organization, few options suggest themselves. Like it's, let me skip that. The principal difference is that for purposes of motivating basic allegiance, i.e. nationality, as distinct from accepting political authority, which is your civil rights, the alternate enemy, quote unquote, must imply a more immediate, tangible, and directly felt threat of destruction. Oh my God, I'm scared to send my kids out the front door. Oh my God, I'm afraid to go to the mall because there was a shooting there. Oh my God, da-da-da-da-da. It must justify the need for taking and paying a blood price, quote unquote, in wide areas of human concern. In this respect, the possible enemies noted earlier would be insufficient. One exception might be the environmental pollution model. What were we just talking about, man? One exception is the environmental pollution model. If the danger to society it posed was genuinely imminent, The fictive models, in other words, they're saying fiction, that the global warming crap is fiction. The fictive models would have to carry the weight of extraordinary conviction, underscored with a not inconsiderable actual sacrifice of life. What we were just talking about, they're dredging the freaking ocean floors. They're killing, huge stocks of fish are washing up dead. Dolphins and whales are beaching themselves. A huge sacrifice of life. They actually call that taking. If you read my article, it's actually the taking of life. It's called legally taking. The construction of an up-to-date mythological or religious structure for this purpose would prevent difficulties in our era, but most certainly be considered. Now, my friend, what can you call the global warming boondoggle but a religion, right? A myth, a mythological belief in the fact that we have altered the very structure and design of this earth. What can that be called at this point but a mythological or religious structure?
Right, sacrifice.
Right.
Sacrifice yourself. Sacrifice yourself. Sacrifice, your daily activities because of your carbon footprint and what it's doing to the world.
Shame on you.
Shame
on you for supporting all of their products from their corporations. Oh, you're horrible. And this is where it gets interesting, man. Games, this is page 54. Games theorists have suggested in other contexts the development of blood games, quote unquote, for the effective control of individual aggressive impulses. Why is it that we sit on our asses and do nothing about what's going on? Why is it that we're so tame in a time where we should be rising up and literally hanging these people, these corporate CEOs, these boards of directors, these politicians that are allowing all this to happen? Why is it that we are so tame and controlled? Because we have blood games. We have blood sport.
The Hunger Games.
It is exactly. It is an ironic commentary on the current state of war and peace studies that it was left not to scientists, but to the makers of a commercial film to develop a model for this notion, on this blood games notion, on the implausible level of popular melodrama as a ritualized manhunt. More realistically, such a ritual might be socialized. Well, gosh, think about. There's a show right now called Manhunt. We watch these reality shows of bounty hunters and of what are those guys that go around and I can't think of their names. Bounty hunters, repossessions, like it's like
repos,
right? Joe Walsh, the guy that does
John Walsh,
America's Most Wanted, right? Manhunts. Now we have predators who are going. I mean, it's a constant barrage of manhunts, exactly as it should be. According to them. More realistically, such a ritual might be socialized, i.e. put onto television in a reality show, in a manner of the Spanish Inquisition, and the less formal witch trials of other periods for purposes of social purification, state security, or other rationale, both acceptable and credible, to post-war societies. Remember, this is all based on keeping us in an imaginary state of war, which is called peace, which is commercialism, basically. The war only happens when commercialism gets blocked up. So we're in an imaginary state of war, even though it's peace, remembering how horrible war is by being reminded by all these blood sports, blood games, blood sacrifices that we see on television. So the feasibility of such an updated version of still another ancient institution, so this ain't new, though doubtful, is considerably less fanciful than the wishful notion of many peace planners, that a lasting condition of peace can be brought about without the most painstaking examination of every possible surrogate for the essential functions of war. What is involved here, in a sense, is the quest for William James' moral equivalent of war. What is the moral equivalent of war, folks? You have to have an alternative enemy. It can't be nations anymore. It has to be terror or the flu or Ebola or anything that is unseen and yet caused to be felt, feared.
A threat to
Right?
you.
So all of a sudden, all of this stuff makes a very strange, immoral sense. It makes sense from the standpoint of the devils that control this country, from the standpoints of the devils who control the media. It makes sense.
Yeah.
It actually makes a hell of a lot of sense that in order to maintain peace, we must have a constant threat of war. And to have a constant threat of war and to make people really feel it, we have to show them blood sacrifices on television. And that is why, in my opinion, and it's really not my opinion, it's the opinion of the report from Iron Mountain, and apparently the opinion of government, that is why these shootings and things are being acted out. Whether they're real or not, I don't think really matters at this point. What matters is that they're necessary for what they call peace, which is really a state of commerce that they control. So in order to have the authority of government and the necessity of a government, there has to be a threat against us and government. Therefore, the definition of terrorism is what a government does to its people to force them to be in government.
Makes a lot of sense. And
sorry, I know
no, that's good.
That making sense anymore it doesn't really make sense.
Common sense isn't so common. But yeah, you just see all of the all the information surrounding that, where this guy took the time to make phone calls or tweet out something about some kind of exactly what you would think, Allah or some other kind of great stuff. Yet you don't have access to that. They're never going to play it. It's just, to me, it's just another, knowing that why this happened through that report there, why, that there needs to be these blood games, and executions in peacetime. I mean, it's, and I don't even really think at some point, I don't think that they're actually going to really make a total attempt to take people's firearms, but I believe that just the thought of these people that they may do it or are thinking about doing it is going to create the right type of, shall we say, Bolshevik type revolution that is really brewing in the country, in the corporation. That there's so many things. We're being divided. We're being polarized on so many different levels, and it's a powder keg. We're a powder keg. Boom.
It's one of the quotes that's going to be in volume 2 of my book is from Ben. So think of this as a game of chess is really the easiest way. So they got us basically all as pawns. They're hiding behind us, right? They send us out to be killed. They're hiding behind us with their class structure, and we're the bottom of the barrel, the plebes, if you will, the pawns. Mm-hmm. We go out and we do all their dirty work for them. We kill on their behalf. We protect them, even though they're the ones enslaving us. But hey, they give us benefits. They give us food. They give us Obama phones and stuff like that.
Hey, like Payday says, the Federal Reserve, Goyim, that's what your gift is.
So this is from Benjamin Franklin. He wrote a book, actually it was an article, called The Morals of Chess. Because the game of chess is not merely an idle amusement. Several very valuable qualities of the mind useful in the course of human life are to be acquired and strengthened by it, so as to become the habits ready on all occasions, for life is a kind of chess. Life is a kind of chess in which we have often points to gain and competitors or adversaries to contend with, and in which there is a vast variety of good and ill events that are, and to some degree, the effect of prudence or the want of it. By playing at chess, then, we may learn first foresight, which looks a little into futurity, the future, and considers the consequences that may attend an action. Circumspection, second, which surveys the whole chessboard or scene of action, the relation of the several pieces and their situations. And third, caution, not to make our moves too hesitantly. Now, you got to think of a guy like this. To him, those pieces are us. To him, moving those pieces, we're talking about war. We're talking about moving soldiers on the field. We're talking about moving political pieces around to ensure the nation exists. This sort of thing. So, if you start thinking about it, the chessboard is actually a perfect analogy of personhood or citizenship, because if I believe that I am a knight, or if I believe that I'm a rook, a bishop, if I believe that I'm a pawn, well, then I can only move forward one or two spaces, and usually only one. I can only go diagonal when I attack. I can only do this. I can only do that. See, all of a sudden, even though it's not real, I can only move one square. Whereas the queen can move any direction, as many squares as she wants to in her own jurisdiction, which is the chessboard. But what happens if I'm a pawn and I suddenly realize, oh, well, gosh, this isn't real. I'm not really a pawn. It's just a flattering title. It's a legal title that doesn't mean anything unless I love it and respect it. Well, then all of a sudden, I can go anywhere on the chessboard I want to. I can go anywhere. I can do anything,
right?
as long as I obey the laws of what is outside of that jurisdiction, that chessboard, that natural law, and I do no harm to anybody. I can do anything I want, and suddenly there's no thing that can stop me as long as I'm obeying those laws of nature. Right. Anything is suddenly possible. Whereas inside the chessboard, I'm bound by money. Money makes everything impossible.
Yeah. It is a good analogy for sure. And I thought about that too. Like as you brought that up, I'm like, pawns, they can only move, like, initially they give you that, listen, you can move 2 spaces. First move, you can move 2 spaces.
We give you license to move 2 spaces.
But after that, just one at a time. And you can only move forward. Unless, right? Unless somebody's diagonal to you, right? Or no, I
want to give you the perfect example of what I mean when I say anything is possible when you're private, or when you're the king of your own land, basically. When you're actually in touch with the land and you're no longer a person of the United States. Well, even if you are a person of the United States, this still applies. And that's patents. The whole idea behind a patent is commercial. There is no other reason for a patent or to patent anything than you want the exclusive rights to earn money from your idea.
Right.
Which to me, knowing what I know and understanding spiritually this whole thing, patents are one of the most evil things there are. Patents literally are created to stop what is possible. Why do they put for cancers and different diseases?
Ebola, they patented Ebola. They patented.
You got to wonder why they're doing it. Well, they want the control of the cure. They want the control of the disease, because nobody can create a cure unless they have the disease. Well, we own the disease. You can't have it. Hey, guess what? You can't do anything to cure breast cancer because we own breast cancer. You can't harm our product. Right? So the whole thing is very evil, patenting. But it's only evil in an evil system. What happens when you get out of the system? Well, patent laws only apply to persons, to commercial entities. Anything that's patented, I can build. I can use any patented idea any way that I want to. The only thing I'm restricted from is selling or making any profit or gain from that final product that I built from the idea or patent, right? But I can build every patented thing that exists in that fictional realm and never, ever break any patent law, because the patent law only applies to fictions. It only applies to money. As long as I'm building it for my own use, I can do anything the hell I want. And that's why I say anything is possible once money is left behind. But as soon as money enters the picture, then suddenly I'm bound in what I can do. That is the importance of mammon. That is the importance of money, because we ignore the potentiality, the reality, the possibilities of what we can do according to the value we place on the, well, I can't do that, it's too expensive. Well, wait a minute. You could do anything you want, except that you love money. And therefore, by loving money, it's actually stopping you from doing the most wonderful, beautiful, absolutely beneficial things to mankind. And that's amazing to me.
I mean, that, like you said, the creators of the money, they control it. So, but there are ways outside of it, because, and the thing is that I think that they're there because they are private people as well. So they need to be able to do things outside of the realm as well. Does that make sense?
Well, first of all, I think that's another trick of the mind. We got to start remembering what source is. You know, fiction can't exist without man, and man can't exist without nature. All right. So first of all, the realm, to be in the sea and not beyond it, that is the fiction. Not nature's not the fiction. We don't need to find nature. Nature is all around us, right? That's reality is all around us. That which is self-existent and self-evident, that needs no proof of law. You know, my mind, body, and soul does not need to be proven to you to exist. I don't need the legal fiction to prove anything that is real, only things that are fictional. Nothing real needs proven. The only thing that needs proven is the name of the real thing, and then the name is used to control the reality. You got to stop thinking of nature, of reality, of the natural law. That is the highest foundation of law. Without that, there is no other law. Without God at the bottom, the Bible at the bottom, the common law, you know, that is the choice. You either follow the Bible or you go to the next step, which is everything else. But if you're following Bible, which is part of the common law, it's the unwritten law. It can't be enforced. You either follow it or you don't. You make the choice right then and there. You're following the Bible or you're following the legal law. And at that point, that's where everything blossoms. That's the choice. That's the only choice. And unfortunately, everybody chooses, because of causality and because of our situations and all the brainwashing and everything else, everybody chooses to hate the Bible and love mammon, love their master. So we got to stop thinking of going, you know, the concept of being born again, very misunderstood, very stupid, you know, religious concept. But in the Bible, it actually means the giving up all of the artifice, giving up all of the fiction, giving up your surname, your number, your titles, your you know, anything that's fictional. That's all it means. It just means living in reality. It's nothing else. Nothing else. It has nothing to do with some image or form or name of God. It's just getting rid of fiction. And especially money, because money controls and is the foundation. Mammon is the foundation of fiction, of law. So we got to start thinking of not. I think in the truth movement and all that, I think our biggest problem is that we think government is the source. We forget what source is. We forget what God, if you will, or nature is. We think that government is inescapable, when in fact government cannot escape nature. It's a closed loop system that they've built a jurisdiction within the reality. It's like the Matrix, right? The Matrix is a computer program. It's a bunch of words that put it together, and when put into a machine, forms an image in our minds. Well, the legal language, the legal system is the same thing. We have a form, an image of it. If I say point me to government, what do? You can't. You can point me to a building, but a building isn't government. You can point me to a man, but the man really isn't government. What is government? It's mind control.
Yep. It's it's a mess, dude. It's the prison. It's the bars that people cannot see.
Well, it's like I said, man. What I have, if you want to know what this book is about, what I have found is self-evident truth. That's all I've found. It's one thing to say the truth. The truth of the Federal Reserve is this. Well, no, the Federal Reserve is an artifice. It's a corporation. It handles money, which is also artificial. There's no truth to be found in the truth movement because the truth movement is always talking about something fictional. Are you going to tell me that there is a truth about the fiction? We have to stop thinking in those terms, in that vulgar capacity. We have to stop respecting what is fake and saying there's something true about it. That's the difference. That's the difference between what truth is. Truth is reality. Truth is that which does not change when you stop believing in it.
Yeah. It's going to take a lot of control and self-control and self-identifying for a lot of people to break out of to break away from this system. And like Greg said any number of times, and Stephen as well, the people would just stop paying their mortgage. They just stop, thinking, oh, if I don't pay my mortgage, and everybody collectively said, listen, you guys get bailouts, you guys get this, you guys get that. We're just not going to pay anymore. And you'll see how fast the whole fiction tries to rearrange itself, and then you'll see people will see more of their power. And there's a number of ways to achieve, breaking this artificial, this artificial thing that they've constructed, but there's a number of different ways, as I thought before. There's baby steps.
None of those ways matter if you still respect it in your head.
Right.
If you still fear it, then you're trapped to it.
But I don't think anybody's going to really go like cold turkey from it.
You have to. I'm telling you.
You see that. You see that now. I see that. You see it obviously more than I do
So this is why the Bible tells you to move out of the cities. You're not going to be able to function in a city. Obviously, I mean that's kind of a given, right? You're not going to be able to act correctly and morally and spiritually in a place designed to completely thwart nature and build a concrete jungle upon it. No, you have to go find utopia. What is utopia? Well, topia, it means topiary.
Right.
So the difference between dystopia and utopia, what is utopia? It's nature, man. It's the perfect design of nature. It's untouched by man. And you have to go find that utopia and not make it into a dystopia like we have in our cities. You got to go find that plot of nature, that land. You have to treat it with love and respect. You treat everything on it and everything that has to do with it with love and respect. If you don't do that, and you think about that, that's pure self-evident truth, pure logic, pure reason, can't be denied. If you don't do that, you might as well get comfortable in hell, in dystopia.
That's true. Now, do you think that when this was all being designed, that it was designed to be directly against the Bible or against the Word, or do you think that
It absolutely is.
That they said, as they were creating this, we need to remove ourselves from the artifice. Hold on one second, Clint. So it was.
This isn't just a phone call, right? You just can't say "hang on."
I know. I just wanted to make sure that there's persons coming through the door, so I had to make sure that they.
Damn persons!
Those persons. But Yeah, so I think about that. I think about all different aspects of it. You know, if it was done in direct opposition, was it knowingly done, or was it just something like, hey, we're just going to design a system that's going to control and dominate, and it goes back to Rome and obviously further than that.
It's a system of, I mean, it's literally a system of racketeering. You could call that piracy if you want to. And these words are at the end of my book that I just released, so that you understand. It's so I wish it was easy to put these words into a concise, soundbite. But there's so much to understand, to finally get the fact that this is a piracy. The government is a racketeering. A racketeer is a person who makes money by violations of the penal law, and it is accompanied by violence. So think of your police. A racket is engaging in an operation to make money illegitimately, implying a continuity of behavior. Well, that's government, right? An organized conspiracy is racketeering, and when we go and we look at what piracy is, we find that piracy, or to be piratical, robbing or plundering by open violence on the high seas, which we call commerce, the law of the sea, consisting in piracy, predatory robbing as a particular trade or occupation, practicing literary theft. What the hell is literary theft? Well, something literally is pertaining to letters, which letters patent, or literature, respecting learning or learned men, which was what we do. As a literary history, well, we respect the bloodlines of these people, which makes them so powerful. Our queens and kings, of course, are there because of their bloodline. That's their literary history. And because of our lack of blood, or our attainder of blood, our history, we are considered as that which is pirated against. Literally conversation. You start to figure out what these terms mean, and you realize that what they've done is they've taken the word piracy and pirates and they've legalized it. They are the legal pirates, and it even says that so piracy is defined as the same offense at sea as robbery on the land. Well, if you turn the land into virtual water, the law of the sea, when the law of the sea extends to the jurisdiction of all the United States, well, then all of a sudden, robbery on land is actually robbery at sea. So the Congress actually... Congress, being the creators of the laws that allow piracy, and the creators of the Pirate Code of the United States, actually they are the conspiracy. They actually have Congress shall have the power to define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas and offenses against the law of nations. Mm-hmm. Okay, do you think the law of nations has anything to do with the law of nature? Congress can define and punish piracies against the law of nations. See, the problem with the law of nations is it doesn't really affect us. It affects the way nation treats nation. We're under the law of nations. They don't give a shit about us. We're just commodities in the nation. All they care about is how nation treats nation. So we're all on the high sea. We're all on the commercial seas of commerce, trading in a citizen ship. And when they want to pirate from us or exact from us, as is our right, our obligation to be exacted from or extorted from, property tax is another extortion. Well, then they come along with their higher in authority. They're flying the flag of the United States, and they're wearing a badge, and their ship is more authoritative than ours, and they take from our ship. They board our ship, pull us over, they search our car, seize our property. You think about it, it's piracy, folks. It's just not, it's figurative, right? They've turned what's real into a figurative thing, and that's why you have to understand these words.
All right, hold on. Stay on the line.
220 rounds a minute, try to stop them. Don't put that on your wish list, that's retarded babble. Protesters make the hit list soon as they start to rabble. They are nothing but fishes in the barrel. It doesn't have to be Christmas for a carol. Some decorate with ornamental decorum. Some perform shock and awe on Hanukkah and Purim. That's where my job come in. I am a blessing to the mercenary. For the corporation selling weapons to them. Any potential competitor step into them. I'm authorized to knock them out and stick a GPS into them. They wanna sell uranium to Iran that's enriched. That's a bitch. Now we gotta teach them.